Hey everybody, Ryan here. I'm starting this new channel to talk about hockey because I've loved hockey for a long time, since I was about 4 years old. I'm 33 now, so I've loved hockey for a long time, and I feel like I want to start a channel on it and look forward to giving you fun content about hockey and all things related to the NHL, and I look forward to it. So hopefully you enjoy. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you like. Just be kind and courteous to others, and hopefully you enjoy. Today I'm going to start with my predictions because the playoffs start today, and I'm going to start with my predictions of how the first round is going to go. To start off with, we got Philadelphia and Montreal. I think a lot of people want to see Montreal do good in this series. Who knows? They might do better than I think they do, but I think Philadelphia is the far better team, and I think they're going to win in 5 games. But like I said, Carey Price could stand on his head, and they could get some lucky goals, like against Pittsburgh. I mean, I think Pittsburgh was a better team, but I think Price was the better goalie. And who knows? But with Carter Hart in that, because he is young, I mean, he could falter because of that, but I think chances are Philadelphia is going to win this series pretty quickly because I don't think Montreal's offense can stand up to them. I don't at all. Next one in the Eastern Conference, we've got Tampa Bay versus Columbus, and rematch of last year's playoffs when Columbus swept Tampa. But I think this year it's going to be different. I think Tampa's going to win in 6, and I think they're going to win because Columbus, I think, is a good team, but Columbus does not have the offensive prowess, and they have rookie goalies. Where last year they had Bobrovsky, who stood very big for them, and their offense is not as good this year as last year. Their defense is still very good defense, but there's still a question where Zach Werenski is perfectly healthy or if he is damaged after that Toronto series. But I still pick Tampa to win because they're going to come into this playoffs. I think they're going to come on pretty ticked off about last year and want some retribution. And I think they're going to get it this year. But they still have the injuries to Hedman and Stamkos, which could really hurt them because Norris winning defender and one of the top goal scorers in the league. That's a lot of hurt right there, but the rest of the team is still there, and I think they had the power to do this, and they could falter, but I think they're going to pull it off. Next, we have Washington versus the New York Islanders. This is probably I'd say, most interesting just because it is former coach of Washington, Barry Trotz, versus his former team, basically. And I think New York Islanders are going to sneak a couple of games out, but I think Washington's going to win it in 6. I don't see them losing to the Islanders. I think Washington has a better team all around. I think it'd be better if they had Varlamov in net, but Holtby is still a very good goalie, and I think they'll still pull it off. I think they'll win in 6. I think Trotz will give them a run for their money, but I don't think the Islanders have the offensive ability to stand up to Washington. But they could. I mean, like any prediction, it's just prediction. I could be 0 for 8 in all these, or I could be 8 for 8. You never know. All right, next series, last one in the Eastern Conference. We have. Sorry, I'm trying to find out my list down here. We have Boston versus Carolina. Now, I think this one's going to be a fun series. No rematch of last year. This one is a rematch of the second round last year, where Boston, if I remember correct, they swept that series against Carolina. But I think Carolina's going to pull it off this year in 7. I think Carolina learned a lot from that loss last year. Their guys now have their young guys have a season of playoff experience now. And Boston just has not looked like they're clicking at all. And Honestly, I hope Carolina wins because I'm a Ducks fan, so they have Boston's first round pick, so Boston loses early. Fair pick. I'm all for it. But all around, though, I think Carolina is just a better team, and I think they're more prepared. And like I said, not perfect science predictions. Boston could even pull out another sweep. If they do, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd be more surprised if a sweep in this series than I would Boston pulling out the series overall. I mean, I think Boston could pull out, but I'm picking Carolina because I think Carolina wants some retribution and they want to show that they aren't just a team who's going to get walked over this year. All right, on to the Western Conference. We got the first overall team, Vegas versus Chicago. Now, I'm picking Vegas in 5, but it could be a longer series. It very much could be because Chicago has a lot of experience, but they also have quite a bit of young guys, and Vegas just looks like they're going to walk all over everybody with the offense this year. And they're getting Max Pacioretty back. He's probably going to take a couple of games to get into everything, but I still think overall you're going to see Vegas being the better team in this series, and I think they're going to win. And I think they're going to go. I don't think they're going with Fleury and net. I think they're going Robin Leonard, which, considering he was traded from Chicago to Vegas, he may want to just shut out his old team, which he may do. We don't know. I don't think Vegas' defense is as good, but I think overall their offense is going to be so deadly that it's just not going to be what I think Chicago fans want to see. I mean, like I said, I think they could pull out a couple more games, maybe make it a 7-game series, but I still think overall Vegas, with who they have, I think they're going to pull it out, barring injuries, of course, for any of these series. I mean, you got major injuries to all the big players, and it changes everything. All right, next one, we have Colorado versus Arizona. That one's going to be it's going to be an interesting series. I think you're going to see Colorado play a lot like they did, I want to say, last year in the playoffs, because I watched the whole series between them and San Jose last year, and they pulled out. What was it? They lost in Game 7? Yeah, Game 7. And I think they're going to do something similar. They're going to have a lot of stifling defense from Arizona, and the goaltending in Arizona is really good this year. Overall, I do think Colorado's going to win probably in 6 games, just because Arizona's offense could not stand against the likes of Colorado. I mean, unless they were to take out their main goal scorers, I don't see it standing at all. So, my pick, Colorado overall, will win that series in 6. Next series, we have Dallas versus Calgary. Now, this is probably going to be a fairly old school, boring series. It's going to be low scoring. I think Dallas will pull it off in 6 just off of experience. I think Calgary have guys who have playoff experience, but they have experience in blowing every series pretty much. I mean, the advantages are not playing Anaheim. I mean, that's one thing Calgary has going for it. They don't have to face them. There's something about Anaheim. Every team has someone they do terrible against. And my entire life, Calgary has done terrible against Anaheim. They have. This year they did good, but it takes them Anaheim to be a god-awful team for them to be able to win. So at least they have that advantage. But I think the experience on and Dallas will pull this off. And I think it will be in 6. I think Calgary will pull off a couple games, but I don't see them being able to beat them because Dallas is too stifling defensively, and they have the experience. I mean, you got Pavelski, you have Perry, you have Ben, you have Seguin. I know the Perry and Pavelski aren't the greatest players anymore that they used to be, but they still have the playoff experience and the grit that they can still pull off the occasional, oh crud, they scored the overtime winner. Okay. And both have quite a few playoff overtime goals in their history, if I remember correctly. So I think they could pull it off. All right, next series. Last one would be St. Louis versus Vancouver. Now, St. Louis, I think, is going to win this in 6. I'm picking them just because they have more experience. And generally, more experience means you have a better chance of winning against a young team like Vancouver. And Vancouver's young guys have no real playoff experience in the NHL. None. So I think it's going to be a learning experience for them this year. I think Vancouver will be a much better team for it next year. Just like Chicago when they first had Kane and Taves in the playoffs. They lost to Detroit that first time around. And next year they came back and won the whole thing. So I'm not saying Vancouver's going to do that. I don't know if they have the team to pull that off, but we'll have to see with all the moves, if there are any in the offseason with a flat salary cap. So we'll have to see what happens. But overall, I think the experience of St. Louis will win this series. I think the young guns of Vancouver will pull out a couple of games. But I think St. Louis is just going to literally beat them into submission. They're going to just hit them constantly. They're not going to give them any space. They're going to crash check them, slash them. They're going to play the old school style, and I think they'll win that way. So those are my picks. Like I said, I have Vegas going on. I have Colorado going on. I have Dallas going on and St. Louis. So I have all the top teams in the West. The top 4 teams. So, I mean, if anything, last year taught us just because your top team doesn't mean you're going to advance, because I don't think any top teams advanced last year. But, no, actually, I think San Jose did. I think San Jose was technically higher ranked than Vegas was last year, technically. But I think that those 4 teams are going to advance. And then in the East, I see Philadelphia, Tampa, Washington, and Carolina. Carolina being the lowest seed advancing is what I see. They're 5th ranked. I mean, like I said, this is not exact science. I mean, this is just off of what I assume is going to happen. So we'll see what happens. But those are my predictions. Hopefully you have something similar. If you do, if you don't, that's fine. Hey, pick your team to win. Go for it. You never know. This playoff year is weird anyways, because it's still weird seeing no fans in the stadium and then playing the audio sounds of a fan base being there. That's a little weird to watch on TV still. And then when they score goals, sometimes it's like, did that actually go in? It's hard to tell because you don't have the audience cheering or moaning and groaning that the other team scored. I mean, it's still weird sometimes watching it, but hopefully it's a good playoff year. I mean, there's still good teams in there, even though some good ones got eliminated already. So, and now we know the draft lottery is over. So, yay, we know who's picking where in the early portion of the draft finally. So, all right, well, hopefully you enjoy. Like I said before, like, subscribe, comment. Just be kind in the comments is all I ask. And that is all. Have a good day, everybody.